Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Cornflake Gang podcast, episode 20. Unfortunately, Evangeline couldn't make it today. She had some unfortunate circumstances today, but we do have a very, very special guest. Everyone, please give a very, very warm welcome to the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Xenu!
Hey guys, thank you so much for having me here, Sophia. This is
Xenu,
really great.
it's such a pleasure to have you. What have you been up to?
You know, it's not easy being the ruler of a galactic confederation. Let me tell you that. It is not easy.
Yeah.
It's it's honest work, but I should this may be controversial, but I feel like I should be getting paid a little bit more for what I'm doing. But
I mean,
hey,
you know, is it your contract that you get paid at the end?
uh, you know, my colleagues and I have been debating that. You know, I it's like, what if I want to start a family? You know,
See, well, have you ever
what if I
thought
want
about
to
this?
retire? What if what's do I get a pension? Do I have healthcare? You know, because right
I
now it
mean
feels like I'm just kind of laying myself out there on the line.
I mean, hey, if you unionize, I bet you can, hash that stuff out. But also, Xenu, I recently heard that you are in the middle of a lawsuit. Is that true?
It, unfortunately, yeah, I am. It's frivolous. It's meritless. And it's like people are trying to steal and my people's culture for, profit, and I don't appreciate it. I don't appreciate it.
Text for our viewer, Xenu is currently in a very, very intense lawsuit with the corporate overlord known as Disney.
Yeah,
Have you
Disney.
actually ever seen Star Wars, Xenu?
You know what? No, because I live it, Sophia. I live it. I don't need to watch some romanticized version of my life on screen. And honestly, it's like, it really,
Okay.
yeah, it's a very much heated. But I really do. I thank you for having me on the show.
Anyways, would you say in this situation you are Luke Skywalker?
I don't even know who Luke Skywalker is. What kind of question
He's
is that?
this rocking twink from a planet named Tatooine. What is your opinion on that?
You're speaking gibberish right now. Absolute.
All right, that's all the time we have today. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Xenu, for coming on the podcast. I will bill you later for the damages that you caused. And here's a word from our sponsor. Hello, everyone. Welcome back officially to our
Yep.
podcast, episode
Welcome back.
20.
We did it. We did it. We're back. This video might be out a little late though, because something
Uh,
happens.
um, Evangeline thought I was dead.
Yeah. Well, I texted yesterday morning, which yesterday morning for us is Friday, and hopefully I can get this up today. So hopefully we're gonna record, edit, post all today, Saturday.
Yep.
But what happened is that usually we record on Fridays, and I texted Sophia like, "Hey, let's record," and I just thought like, hey, maybe she's just taking a no phone day or something. I don't know, but I received absolutely no text messages whatsoever. So I just so this morning I restarted my phone because I thought, oh, you know what, this is getting kind of weird. I saw her message on another Discord server of ours, and then like 20 text messages just loaded onto
Just
my phone. So
which I'll stand from yesterday morning, and I have texted her throughout the day, including this morning, and I was just like, "You know what? Maybe Evangeline's also busy, and she's just sending me stuff that she sees just to, like, bookmark it or, like, to just throw it at me quickly."
yeah.
No, she was just not receiving my text.
Yeah. So,
So,
yeah.
here we are.
Yeah, we have a pretty kind of a surprise episode a little bit. Um,
Small.
y
Kind
y
of, kind
yeah.
of.
Well, originally this was gonna be we said two-parter last week, but I think we meant to say three-parter because the finale to this is actually going to an official Ideal
Yeah,
org, taking a tour, taking their personality test for Scientology, if that wasn't clear. Um, mhm,
and
and
seeing what they say about us.
yeah, but what happened is that there is a Church of Scientology near where I am right now, and I don't really wanna I feel like I have already said where I go to college and everything, but I just don't because I really wanna make it clear that I don't want anybody going to this church harassing the people that work there because to be honest, they were very nice people, and they were not, like, pressuring me to do anything, to buy anything. So, I just, like, wanna make that super, 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 super clear, that this is not meant to, like, dox those people or reveal their personal information or anything like that. It was simply just to go there and get information about this religion. Um but yeah, I went by myself because Sophia and I are in completely different states at the moment, so
For
that
different
wouldn't have
states.
worked. So basically, um, last episode we were kind of coming back, doing a very vague intro to Scientology. Originally, this episode was supposed to be a much deeper dive into it. We were going to go through some like verbatim definitions, fair game, Sea Org, some of the more darker things. And then the last episode would be, like I said before, going to an ideal org, like in December or January, since that's when I'll be back in California. But I was like, you know what? I feel like I should just go check out this church. Not take a tour or anything, just like talk to some of the people in there. And I did. So this episode is going to be just breaking down all of the highlights of that visit. So, yeah. Sophia,
Yeah,
would you like to add anything?
I don't have anything to add because you you, we've been talking about it, and she sends me this, when I'm working, so I usually check on my break, and I just checked, I'm like, "Oh, she's off. Don't get killed, I guess." But, I got really nothing to add because this experience is all you.
Yeah. But I still want you to add stuff because I feel like last time I kind of overtook the conversation and I felt a
No, you're
little
good.
bad
I mean,
about that.
I'm honestly you know what? I'm listening to this as if I'm listening to a podcast. So,
It's a podcast within a podcast, how meta.
podcast and a
Um,
podcast.
so I guess we kind of talked about this last time, but the reason that we didn't go to the ideal org initially in Sacramento, we already said where we live, so I don't really care. We just like weren't prepared.
At
There's
all.
like security around that place. There are a lot of floors. There are I think it's a little more built up to the point where the rumors about like them using audio visual surveillance, recording you, starting to log on you, pressuring you to buy things, pressuring you to give them your contact info is probably because we don't know for sure, is probably going to reign more true
Yeah.
at the ideal org. So we decided not to because we needed to plan out, like some false identities uh to get through there without our actual lives being which, who knows, maybe someone from Scientology is watching this and that doesn't even really matter. But anyways, when this church near where I live at the current moment is not an ideal org. It is a regular church. It looks like that building has been there for a while. It almost looks more like an office building. So I ended up parking in their parking lot just because the area around there was kind of sketchy and I felt like whatever. So I went in with a false name. I won't say what it is here because again, I don't know who's listening to this. um and when I went in there was like a reception desk. And
Do they have a little cafe?
no, they did not. It was very like I don't want to say run down, but it looked nothing like the SAC location at
Yeah.
all. So I go in there and there's a woman at the desk and she like asked me, like super nice. She was a little shy, but she was really nice. And I also like won't be sharing any names or anything like that. And she asked me what I was like doing there, and I just kind of made up some story about how I'm doing a research paper for my English class and I wanted to learn more about Scientology. One thing I found very odd throughout my entire visit there was that they kept on redirecting me to the website. Um, when I kept on saying like I want to get like an actual like quote like interview person to person communication, and they kept on
Mhm.
redirecting me to the website, which I just thought was odd. Um, because it's like, yeah, I can use the internet, like, but I'm coming here. So that was one thing. They were still keeping up like COVID protocols, like wanting me to, except for the masks, but they still wanted me to like use hand sanitizer and log in. Uh, and by login, I literally mean like they just wanted my name and what time I showed up and what time I left. Like that was it. There was no email, no phone number, nothing like that. So, but also like want to make it clear that Scientology is not upkeeping health protocols because they genuinely care about people not getting COVID. They're doing that because David Miscavige has asthma, so he's
You're
actually
kidding
affected
me.
by COVID. No, he does. I think it's asthma or it's some respiratory thing.
That's that's kind of funny.
And I just want to like unpack that for a second because the whole premise of Scientology is that as you move up the bridge, you're not going to get sick anymore,
Yeah,
or
because you
very rarely.
transcended.
You transcend, you reach spiritual freedom, you get rid of the body thetans or whatever, and you don't get sick anymore. There's like a clip of this promotional video, and Scientology has a lot of promotional videos. I encourage you to check them out because they're a little wild. There's like a woman who's like, I got a cold every summer. And after I reached clear, which is like before you start going to the OT levels, and that's what clearing the planet is. They want people to reach this level called clear. I didn't have colds anymore. She didn't get colds after reaching clear. So I just like I find that a little contradictory, but it makes sense when you think about what David Miscavige has.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I mean, I don't know, maybe the people who were working at that building genuinely did care. They seemed like nice enough people, so I don't know. But they were still holding that protocol. And, one of the first things I asked, I kind of jumped into it and I just asked this woman, I was like, so why Scientology? Like, why would you choose that? Which is like, is a valid question for anyone who's in a religion, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Uh, and this phrase, or a version of this phrase, kept on getting said when I would ask, like, like not even just personal questions, but questions that I already knew the answers. But some of these questions were like, I already knew the answers to, but knew that Scientologists cannot tell me that information. And it would always be like, well, that's a long story. That's a long question. That's a long answer. Like that had to get thrown around at least like 5 times throughout my visit. So
Hmm.
that was odd. But she did tell me that she grew up in Scientology. So I was like, oh,
Ooh.
I
So
didn't
her
like,
parents were.
yeah, I didn't like say that. I just was like, oh,
Mhm.
okay. Like, um, and she said because of a medical condition that she's had since birth, Scientology offered the technology, offered the technology to save her life as a child. I didn't
Okay.
push because her health information is none of my concern. So I
Mhm.
just left it as that. Um, but it did it like knowing what I know now about like people who grow up in Scientology, it was a little like off-putting because obviously she seemed like she was fine. She didn't seem run down. But also like how is a religion offering you what is Scientology offering that like modern medicine isn't?
Uh,
And I won't get into like what her medical condition was because it was a visible one. So, but that was just like weird to me. I don't know what technology was being offered.
honestly, this just kind of sounds like they offered her like support, like emotional support or something, rather than like actual medical attention.
Yeah,
Because
technology as they call
a
it.
lot
Like
of the
auditing,
time,
like what
like religions and stuff like that offer more like emotional support, I guess. So that's literally what it sounds like to me. But yeah.
and also something I've learned like recently in the past couple of weeks is that Scientology really likes chiropractors, which is also not a very like found science either. So I'm wondering if that was had something to do with it. I'm not sure, but she said technology. Like that's a quote, like technology was offered
Mhm.
to me. So I asked her, like, what is Scientology? Can you explain it to me? That's a long question. How is that a long question?
Well,
Is it I mean, like, if you ask someone what Christianity is, sure, there's a lot like to unpack there, but you can say, like, we believe in, Christ. We believe that Christ is our savior. Like, that's usually, I feel like
yeah.
someone can explain to me what Islam is in a couple of sentences. Someone can explain to me what Judaism is in a couple of sentences. Someone could even explain Satanism to me in a couple of sentences. But for Scientology, it's a long question. You should go to the website. The website? I've never met no pastor who was told me go to the website to learn more about.
That's just weird because even if you don't have like a solid belief system, you should at least be able to say what exactly it is. Like, is
Yeah,
it support? Is it belief? Is it faith? Like,
it's like if I tell someone I'm agnostic, I can say what that is. I can say I believe there is a higher being, but I don't believe in any of like the scriptures that associate with it. I simply just
mhm.
believe that there's a higher being. Um, keeps me humble, as I like to say. um, uh, but even I can explain me not having a religion. So I just found that really, again, that's a long question.
I also
I also think they weren't as pushy because I said I was a student. So I'd be interested to see when we go to the ideal org if we go in as like genuinely like curious people potentially wanted to be parishioners. Like I wonder how
mhm.
the energy would change. So then she says, "Can I have you log in because there's someone here that would be much more suited to answer your questions?" I was like, "Okay, that's what I came here for." So this woman comes out and the receptionist I'm just gonna refer to this woman as like TG tour guide, even though I didn't really take a tour, but it's just gonna be the easiest thing. So TG. The receptionist introduces me to the TG by first name. That's a very important detail, in my opinion. So the TG asks me, like, what brought me here today? And I explain to her, blah, 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 blah. And then she starts, like, kind of showing me around a little bit. She first brings me to this giant, like, a display thing that lists all of the Scientology books that L. Ron Hubbard has written. I mean, there had to be at least 50 of them, from Dianetics all the way to his book in like 1976. I think that's what she said. And they really do hammer in Dianetics. Dianetics is where it starts. Dianetics is the founding thing. Like, you can't go wrong with Dianetics kind of thing. They were really not pushing me to buy it, but just really pushing the importance of Dianetics.
You know what? I'm thinking of trying to go find a used copy to buy because I kind of want to read it.
No, I think it would be really interesting if we like maybe did separate videos and like just went through it.
Yeah, I'm gonna start looking around for used copies.
Yeah. And there's plenty of used copies because people don't want to like give it back to the church or,
Yeah.
they spent thousands. I mean, some book packages are $3,000.
Damn.
Yeah. I actually
That
have,
hurt my soul
let
a little
me
bit.
get something really quick because I did
All right.
receive one booklet and 2 DVDs for free.
Huh.
So, and there's a list of them, even though these like DVDs are really old. But there was some pricing for the books on it. So let me
Mhm.
get that real quick.
All right. So yeah. Um. This is gonna be an interesting
All right.
quadrilogy? Quad what's
What?
not trilogy. I was gonna this is gonna make for a really interesting series.
Here it is. Okay. This is the ad. So I got like a Dianetics DVD. So that might be interesting to go through for a video. We're literally gonna become a Scientology channel. This is insane. Um Now, this is copyright 2016. So this is about like 6 years old, but I'm sure it's not wildly different. So it's the L. Ron Hubbard book cover with the exploding volcano, the modern science of mental health. Blow away the barriers to happiness with this explosive bestseller. Indisputably the most widely read and influential book ever written about the mind. Dianetics is used in more than 160 nations. Dianetics brings dramatic and permanent improvement to people across every walk of life. Read and use Dianetics, the modern science of mental health. Free shipping. Orders shipped within 24 hours.
Just first order. Breed?
What?
Did you say read or breed?
Read? I also said free shipping. I don't.
Breed like BRE.
Dude, what are you talking about? I did not say read or breed. I'm just gonna move on. I don't know what that's about. Um, Now these are some of the prices. So for a Dianetics, paperback is $25. It's also 704 pages. So
2.4 out of 5 on Goodreads.
um hardback is $40.
This
Audiobook
book.
is also $40. Dianetics, the original thesis, paperback, $24, $30 for hardback, $25 for audiobook. Dianetics, the evolution of a science. Paperback 20, hardback 30, audiobook 25. Self-analysis workbook, $20, hardback, $35. And then the complete Dianetics how-to kit includes the film, which I got for free, the paperback book, lectures, how to use Dianetics film guide, Dianetics procedure guide, $75. So that's from 2016. So we got that. I don't want to spend too much time on Dianetics though, because it's not, I think there's more interesting things to be discussed here. So she walks me through all of these books, not in detail, because that would be a long time. So one thing she said that, gives us a quote right from a Scientologist themselves about what Scientology is. She says, man as a spiritual being. So we're talking about man as a spiritual being, and that we are no longer just dealing with the mind and the body. We are dealing with a being, and the being has a mind and has a body. Do you want to dissect that? Oh. Did that blow your mind because you just left the call?
My AirPods literally couldn't handle the information and stopped.
It just stopped.
I was gonna say, first off, I found copies for literally $5.
That's a steal. That is a steal.
Here's the link. I'm just gonna send it to you for educational purposes.
Okay.
Second off, wow.
Yeah. So that's a straight up quote. I'm not twisting her words. That is a quote. So, yeah. So then we go into this office. I don't know if it's really an office, but I'm going to call it an office. I described it. Okay. So this office in the back wall, it was filled to the brim with Scientology books, DVDs, lectures, workbooks, etc. Like just a whole wall of this stuff. And there was a bridge to total freedom, which I think we kind of touched on last week on one of the other walls. There was also like this separate office. I'm assuming that was more for like employees, so I didn't go in there. And again, like this place was not well funded because she had this ancient laptop that she was carrying around, pulling up the website, showing me. What I thought was kind of funny, and I was really trying hard not to laugh. She showed me, it's the first thing when you go onto Scientology.org or whatever it is. It right on the front page is their ad from the Super Bowl, and that's what she played for me to, I guess, give me a better idea. I would play it here, but I also don't know how Scientology works with copyright, and I don't really want to get into that. So, but you guys can look it up. It's the Scientology 2022 Super Bowl ad. And that's what she showed to me. I thought that was interesting because it really didn't teach me anything. It was just like a bunch of, oh, excuse me. Sorry about that. Where was I? Oh yeah. So she showed me the Super Bowl ad and then proceeded to like run me through their site. I think it's important to note because we can sit here and say they make you pay for everything. There are actually free courses on their site. So
I mean,
there you go. There's some free courses, but that does not exclude the fact that there is proof of them manipulating people into spending their life savings on this.
I want to see how the free courses go. I want to see what they're about.
Yeah, we can definitely, I think we'll definitely start doing like just kind of like mini YouTube videos diving into this.
Yeah.
These episodes are meant to be much more like overviews of certain things. So Yeah, no one's going to request that, but we just think it's interesting and we don't really care what you think. So, um, anyways, so after she showed me the website, she then promoted all of these organizations that Scientology has: Drug Free World, Human Rights Commission, and also the booklet that I got was called The Way to Happiness. She kept on promoting the fact that they work with prisoners, they work with businesses, they work with the homeless to, she didn't say clear the planet. I actually don't even think she ever said clear the planet, but I'm just going to use that phrase because that's ultimately like what Scientology's goal is. So that's, nothing like too weird yet. You don't think this is, I mean, like, this is pretty, like, unassuming. If you knew nothing about Scientology, like, this is pretty unassuming, right?
I just think it's weird regardless, because I don't know, you wouldn't walk into like a Catholic church and they would show you a Super Bowl ad.
I mean, yeah, but for this being like a modern new wave religion, that you
I
kind of
guess.
have some semblance of the idea, like, there's something different about this.
Yeah.
Uh,
Kind of from that
it's
perspective.
mostly unassuming.
Mostly.
Mostly. We just obviously have a very big bias and a lot of knowledge prior to this visit. So it kind of, but I am like really trying to just tell you guys like what happened, not trying to spin anything. Um, but yeah, so where should I? Okay, so now I ask the TG's story. What brought her to Scientology? Uh, why she's still in it. I think she said she's been in it for about like 30 years, but I forgot to write that down exactly. But she's been in there for about 30 years. This is when I did tell her that I'm agnostic. And I've heard this before from reading people's stories about visiting Scientology centers. And honestly, she could be completely telling the truth in the sense that of what she's about to say, but she did say I was also agnostic. Which, that's common. Plenty of people are. I just was a little weirded out by that because I had read other stories of people saying, oh, yeah, I said the specific thing about myself. And then all of a sudden, my tour guide was like, oh, yeah, me too. That exact specific thing. So I don't want to say like she was using one of those tactics, but I wouldn't be surprised if she was in order to maybe influence me to join that day. So that was the first thing she said about her story. And she said she had been looking around a lot in different religions and she was looking for some sort of like spiritual awakening. And she told me that Dianetics has, quote, practical solutions.
All right.
What those practical solutions are,
Who's
I
to
didn't
say?
push, but she said practical solutions. So I think this is interesting because it can give us a little more insight into why people join. Because I think I actually just got done today with watching another episode from Leah Remini's docuseries. And I think the assumption is that people who join Scientology are like dumb and gullible, when in fact, most of the people that I've been listening to these stories, researching, these are not dumb, gullible people. Maybe some of them are, but it's not that kind of cult.
Yeah.
These are it's not that kind of cult where it's like out in the desert and people are like openly worshiping some weird like alien god. Like this is an industry. It is refined and they are attracting people who are possibly lost, but I think a lot of these people are genuinely good people who want to help and are smart people. So Scientology has unlocked some sort of marketing kind of aspect to get people to come in because of these quote practical solutions to all of your problems that'll go away.
Which, by the way, that was the same with Heaven's Gate. it was a lot of very, very intelligent people. Like, they had doctors and rocket scientists join Heaven's Gate. And a lot of times it really isn't dumb people. It's very, very smart people. Like you said. So I'm not surprised by that. But a lot of people do really expect just the dumbest of people to join stuff.
Yeah. I think like that's definitely before I started researching this. It was always like even since I was a kid, like just knowing about Scientology, I was like, oh, it's a cult. Like, why would people join that? Like, you're dumb. But hearing people's stories, I realized like, oh no, these are people who are genuinely trying to get help for problems that they couldn't find else or solutions to problems they couldn't find elsewhere. And it's just kind of sad. But the next quote kind of touches on this as well from my TG. She said, Scientology provided for me things that I considered to be true and workable. This is another type of thing that kept on getting thrown around. A lot of times I would notice when she was explaining things, it would always be what Scientologists believe to be true, what I believe to be true, my truth type of like jargon.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, we can dissect that. We don't have to. I just, it was like, I don't know why she was putting it that way. I kind of appreciate it because it was kind of a way to not like force it down my throat or anything, but also it's just like, why do you keep on saying what's workable for me? What Scientologists believe to be true. I don't know if that was like to put Scientologists on some higher level as if, what they believe to be true because this information is too much for you right now. So I'm not really sure why that type of wording was getting thrown around a lot during my interview-ish kind of thing. But yeah. So,
Oh,
you can add in.
yeah, I was gonna say when they say like what we believe or like what they believe to be true, to me it just sounds like they're unsure. Like that's from my perspective, I guess.
Yeah, but it's like she didn't seem unsure about what she was talking about. So like that's why it just kind of threw me off.
I mean, I was
Also,
also gonna say I wasn't there. I don't know like the tone of her voice
yeah.
and stuff like that.
And another thing that she mentioned multiple times was that things, quote, are much worse now, unquote, than back in the 80s. Things are much worse now than back in the 80s. And she kept on bringing up like crazy homeless people. She's like, I don't know if you've been noticing things or just taking a look around your community, but things are much worse now.
Man, she's one of those.
And I found that to be almost like a selling point. It was like,
Oh,
well,
definitely.
things are much worse now, but we as Scientologists, with our practical solutions, with our wonderful organizations, Drug Free World, human rights commissions, we can, clear the planet. Things are much worse now, but like they don't have to be kind of thing. So she kept on bringing that up a lot. Uh, Another thing I asked, which I think was maybe a little bit of a curveball question for her, because, she had shown me all the books. She had shown me all the lectures, all of this stuff, all of these products, really. And so I just straight up asked her, so did Hubbard like do these studies? Did he write all of these books and lectures by himself? Because that's a lot of work to do for one guy. And I never said science fiction writer, but I think it's important to know, how did this one guy, a science fiction writer, do all of this work, who is not a doctor, is not accredited at all, do all this work? And I didn't put it like that, but I basically asked her, how did he do all this by himself? And she really didn't give me any details. She just said, basically, yeah, he did it himself. So what that tells me is that there is absolutely no questioning going around. It actually solidifies it, but it solidifies it in the sense that Scientologists are not meant to question how Hubbard got this information at all.
I still
Because
can't
how
get
can you
over,
say, yeah,
I just still
to
can't get
a question
over
like that?
how he's a science fiction writer and it's well-known knowledge and everyone's like, yeah, that's legit information.
Yeah, and just like not even questioning it, defending it. So I'm gonna pull up which part is this? Okay. So at the front of the building where I entered, there was a window and it had let me pull it up. This. Uh this is Sophia, if you want to pull this up, it's like the
Sure.
first link on there. It should say Scientology founder L. Ron Hubbard centennial celebrated with release of complete biographical encyclopedia. I'm not going to read this entire article because we are already like about 40 minutes into this episode. So, but these are all books that they had, and I think it would be good to see, Hubbard is in Scientology is seen as this person who has done everything. He's done everything. He's knowledgeable in everything. And so this Centennial collection really captures that because this is all of these, what I'm highlighting right now, are books. L. Ron Hubbard, A Profile. Another book. There's 3 books for humanitarian. Humanitarian, Education, Literacy, and Civilization. Humanitarian, Rehabilitating a Drugged Society. Humanitarian, Restoring Honor and Self-Respect. Freedom Fighter, Articles and Essays. Philosopher and Founder, Rediscovery of the Human Soul. Dianetics, Letters and Journals. Adventure Explorer, Daring Deeds in Unknown Realms. Early Years of Adventure, Letters and Journals. Writer, The Shaping of Popular Fiction, and so forth. I mean, there's music maker, photographer, horticulture. And the great one, Master Mariner at the helm across 7 seas, because he served our country so wonderfully. That's why he was dishonorably discharged. I think. I don't know that for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. So all of these books are meant to uplift L. Ron Hubbard, show how much of a person he was, all the things that he did. He did all of these things, which is why we should trust him. It's like, this is just ridiculous. Like, no one does this much. No one does this much. No one has this many books on them to prove how great of a person they were, how well-rounded they were. Like, this is just weird. This is weird, and also, in this article, I'd also like to point out the fact that it says, included are crucial details from his early years, wherein he distinguishes himself at age 13. Wherein he distinguishes himself. He distinguishes himself at age 13 as the nation's youngest Eagle Scout.
Yeah,
And begins a lifelong study of the human condition under the tutelage of a student of Sigmund Freud. Oh god, I can't speak. Freud.
No way Freud is having a cameo in this.
What kind of under the tutelage of a student of Sigmund Freud?
Okay, listen, me and Freud have some beef right now. So me and Freud always been having beef. So the fact that he's having a cameo in this right now is kind of I don't know, it's kind of.
But there's another claim, another outlandish claim. there is more as a young L. Ron Hubbard embarks on his famed travels through Asia, where he becomes one of the few Westerners to enter forbidden Tibetan lamaseries. I might have butchered that last word, but I think y'all can get what I just said. So now that we know this great Mr. Hubbard, let's see a different perspective.
Hold up. This one right now that says that L. Ron Hubbard suffered many injuries regarding a bomb explosion in World War II, and he received 29 medals and palms,
Yeah.
including a Purple Heart. And then here it just said that Hubbard's service record shows that he never saw action against the enemy.
Yeah.
He never was awarded the Purple Heart.
Are you reading the Watchman Fellowship?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me show that real quick. And let's just tackle, there's a lot of Watchman Fellowship, I'm pretty sure talks about it's a little biased because as you can see here, it says bringing real hope to real people through Christ. So they're a little, but I'm pretty sure they go through a lot of like different religions and talk about it. But I found this page that basically debunks a lot of the claims that Scientology holds for L. Ron Hubbard. So let me just find, okay, so right here. Let's zoom in. Yes, okay. I think that's a little too much. There you go. So Scientology says, in 1923, Hubbard's family transferred to Seattle, Washington, where he joined the Boy Scouts of America. In 1924, he was honored as the youngest Eagle Scout ever at 13. This is in a book called What is Scientology? The fact. This is the Watchman Fellowship's telephone interview with the National Office of Boy Scouts of America. So if anyone's going to know this historic record of LRH, that he was the youngest Eagle Scout, this Boy Scouts of America is probably going to know. So it says here, the Boy Scouts have a record of Ronald Hubbard becoming an Eagle Scout on March 28th, 1924 in Washington, D.C. However, there is no way to know whether he was the youngest Eagle Scout ever because the Boy Scouts do not officially record the age of Eagle Scouts. However, a national office spokesperson estimated the average age of Eagle Scouts as 11, with some as young as 10. So I think it is safe to say that he was most likely not the youngest Eagle Scout ever, considering the average age is 11 and 10.
It's just there's so many lies here, and they're so obviously
there are so many. We could spend all day on this page, but we don't have the time to do that. So I'm also gonna work on like a Google Docs master list of all the links that and sites and shows and books that we talk about. And it might not be in this episode, like in the description of this episode, because it's probably going to take me a little bit, but it'll definitely be there by December. By December, it'll definitely be there, which is kind of like a long time, but I got a lot of stuff going on. So, yeah. So this is it. And feel free. I would love to get proved wrong about this. I would love to, because then that would mean that all this like horrible stuff that is going on is not going on. I would love for Scientology to be a true and honest religion. I really would. But there is so much here that just does not add up. But before I get like super heated, let's go to the next point. So, I almost forgot something really weird. Sophia, I don't know if you noticed this on one of the bullet points in rooms, but
hold up. Where is it? Messed?
That's not it. So after the TG and I got done talking about these books and everything that LRH has done, she was telling me, he wanted to understand what study as a concept is. And, she was just talking on and on and on about it. She obviously, representative of the fact that Scientologists hold L. Ron Hubbard in very high regards. He's not a god, but he's kind of treated like one. That's not what she told me, but that's how I see it.
Hold up. Can we do a quick detour?
To what?
I found this $124 limited edition print of Dianetics.
Oh my god.
It is a hardcover with the most bomb cover I've ever seen. Am I thinking about getting it? Kind of. Anyway.
Please don't.
I'm not.
Okay.
But the cover is very cool. Anyways, continue. And a quick break to hear from our sponsor.
If you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, it is the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let us explain.
Anchor has tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
When hosting on Anchor, you can distribute your podcast on so many listening platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more.
It's everything you need to make a podcast all right in one place.
And best of all, Anchor is totally... What, Sophia?
It's free! 100%
Let's go!
free. So download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. I mean, hey, we use it, so should you. Back to the pod.
Okay, so I noticed behind her that there was a room, and I didn't even notice it coming in. I just thought it was like a regular old office. But since we were like right next to it, I noticed there was like a name placard or whatever on the desk in this room.
Mm-hmm.
And it said L. Ron Hubbard. So then, I mean, my mind's already like, oh my god, like they have a shrine in here for this dude. But I just asked her super innocently. I was like, oh, what's that room? So this is a quote straight from TG.
Mm-hmm.
She said, it's a commemorative thing. It's an office that's set up in every church. And again, I just let her talk. I simply just asked her what the room was. And then she goes on to say, kind of like in an almost panicked voice, like, he doesn't come in. We don't believe that he comes in, that he hangs around as a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I never asked that. I just asked what the room was. But she had to make it a point to say he doesn't come in. We don't believe that he comes in, that he hangs around as a spirit. But again,
So,
I never asked that.
that's sometimes just, going out for my homie Hubbard.
So that was a piece of information that was completely new to me. I did not know that they have an office for him in every church. And I know from when she said, he doesn't come in, we don't believe that he comes in, that he hangs around as a spirit, they believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Because why would you say that otherwise? Maybe she personally doesn't believe, but I bet that that's like a common like consensus in Scientology. Because that's the whole thing. Like, you have videos of David Miscavige when L. Ron Hubbard died saying he decided to leave his body.
Oh yeah, to go find the
Because man is a spiritual being. And there's also like there's bunkers for L. Ron Hubbard that are stocked with his favorite food, favorite whatever, in the
Like,
hopes that he will come back in a new body.
yeah, like, oh, I remember you were saying this. Like, they have, like, food, cigarettes, right?
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
the pinnacle of health, that his shrines consists of his favorite snacks, foods, and cigarettes.
Yeah. So that was probably one of the weirdest things that I learned. Um, but yeah, do with that information what you will.
We pass it off to you, and yeah.
So now we're going to get into the nitty gritty of Scientology technology, what they believe. What are these practical solutions? What is this study? What is this data that has been talked about this entire visit, this entire time? So she had mentioned a couple of times something called the tone scale. Now, I acted like I had no effing clue what the tone scale was. So I just went, oh, what's this emotional tone scale? She's like, yeah, the emotional tone scale. So you go into this room. It looks like a teaching room or something. There was a lot of chairs in it. There was this giant
Mhm.
TV and like some materials and whatever. That's not really important, but I just thought I might give you a mental image. She pulls out this giant poster. That's the tone scale. Before explaining what was on this poster, she compared emotional tone to vibes. Like she gave the example, like, you know, how you say someone has like, oh, that dude has weird vibes, that dude has bad vibes. That's kind of what this is. But, quote, we're taking emotional behavior and plotting it on a scale. And this derives from Science of Survival, which is another book. I think it was one of L. Ron Hubbard's earlier books, The
Mhm.
Science of Survival. I don't know like a whole lot about this book except for the fact that this tone scale comes from it. So another quote, individuals falling at different levels on the scale, you can expect different responses. So like pretty straightforward. Uh Nothing to like, whoa, but let's pull up this emotional tone scale. And I'm going to pull it up. Apologies if you can't read it because there is a lot of stuff on here, but this is from actual Scientology site. Not like this is on their site. So this is what it looks like. Obviously, I'm going to assume people are not going to be able to read this. Oh wait, no, it expands. Okay. So this is the Hubbard chart of human evaluation. There is so much stuff on here. I will never have the time to go through all of it. But basically, what you do, how she explained it to me, was that like it it's a tone scale from 0 or 0.1 all the way to 4, 4 being the highest, obviously.
Mhm.
So it's like it's kind of like your times table chart or something. You know, like it was like, oh, you put your finger on 2 and then you go to 3 and then you have 6 like as the answer. Like that's how this works.
Mhm.
Um and there's just so much stuff on here. Again, like I don't it's not even that some of this stuff on here is like false or bad. It's just that like why do people need to pay to get this? How is
Right.
this any different from going to therapy? Like it
No, because you don't understand. Therapy is literally the devil.
I know. I'll get into that too. Um but it's just all of this stuff. Uh and then there's another like more visual one. Let me pull that up. And, like, again, sorry I'm not, like, going into this whole thing, but there's just so much stuff on here that is, like, impossible to get
No,
through in
but
a podcast episode.
I'm just letting Evangeline do all the talking because she knows way more than I do, and she can explain it way better.
So this is another poster, and this is stuff that, like, I saw the physical copies of. This is the tone scale in full. Now, this is much larger. I'm not, like, entirely sure, like, what the difference is, but basically, like, the bottom is literally, like, you're dead. Um, and the top is serenity of beingness. And this is from Tony Ortega's site, the underground bunker. He's another Scientology, like, ex expo. He does a lot of stuff. He has a lot of articles, great resources. This is an interview with Claire Headley. She was on Leah Remini's series, and she is a former Scientologist, as it says here. She and her husband Mark were Sea Org workers. And I think I was gonna ask this, but I didn't want to, like, ruin my chances of getting more information. So let's go back to the emotional tone scale. I think this is really important because I think Scientology parades itself as something that's open to anybody. And there's one thing that I think is pretty not open once you get into this. If I can find it, since there is so much crap on here. It's for, I'm pretty sure. Is it? No, it was something about, like, not wanting to procreate.
Ugh.
Some, where the hell is it? Okay, well, basically, I am almost positive there's something on here that says not, like, refusing to procreate. Um, but this kind of gets into, like, how the Church of Scientology treats gay people. Uh, when y- obviously we know that gay people cannot have kids the same way that a straight couple will. That is often the argument that many religions have, because it, like, oh, I don't know what happened there. Uh have on why, like, gay people, like, shouldn't be gay. Here it is. Interest in procreation. Tone scale 3 under SEXUAL, behavior and attitude toward children. So if you fall below this and you can't procreate, quote, normally, you are on a lower tone scale. And what L. Ron Hubbard says in his book Science of Survival is that if you fall at, like, tone scale 2 or something like that, you're part of what needs to get cleared from the planet. Mike Rinder has said in his book that if Scientologists could clear the planet of people who fall under a lower emotional tone level, that they would, but that's illegal. So that's just what's stopping them. But L. Ron Hubbard basically believes that gay people should be quietly disposed of, along with other people who fall in this tone scale.
That's so much fun. I love that for me.
Yeah. So I didn't ask about that because that was going to get into some, like, really dicey territory. So that was just not something that I asked about, but I think it's something worth mentioning here. So we have that tidbit. So that was pretty much it about the tone scale.
That was a lot.
Mm-hmm. So now we're going to get into the 8 dynamics. Now, these are the core principles of a Scientologist. And if you ever seen a Scientology like symbol, it's a cross and it has like 4 it has 4 like points in between the spaces between the crosses. So there's just with the cross alone there's 8 points, but with these like she didn't explain this to me, but how I understand is that the Scientology symbol represents the 8 dynamics. There are 8 points in their symbol. They represent the 8 dynamics. Dynamic is also referred to as a thrust, which I learned. So we're just going to go through this really quickly, except for the last one we will divulge on a little more. First dynamic, survival. So just like the need to survive. Second one, back to the tone scale, procreation. That's self-explanatory. Third one, groups, community. So having like a community to have, like a club or something like that. Fourth dynamic, mankind as a whole. A lot of these dynamics are kind of, like a lot of things in Scientology, kind of repetitive, but they all build off one another. And so mankind as a whole, like as a fourth dynamic, is kind of repetitive because it's like ensuring the survival of mankind. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dynamic 5, nature, plants and animals, maintaining that because obviously like we can't live without plants and animals. And then an acronym is in the 6th dynamic, and it's NEST. Matter, energy, space, time. So these are like the physical things in our life, kind of just like the universe in itself. The seventh dynamic is the spirit. She kind of described it as like, well, if I take away your spirit, you are, you're this height, you have brown hair, you have brown eyes, like that kind of thing. So she said, we're just talking about the spirit because, as Scientologists say, man is a spiritual being. Now, here's where things get interesting. The 8th dynamic is called infinity, or your afterlife. And this is where we started getting into, and I just straight up asked her, so like, you guys believe in past lives? And she said, yes. Memories, according to Scientologists, are recordings from your past lives in your recordings in your reactive mind. Now, the reactive mind, that is a very common phrase that is used in Scientology. The reactive mind is just that. It's our mind reacting to things. But Scientologist L. Ron Hubbard wrote that our reactive mind is like below our consciousness, so we can't control it unless we take Scientology courses. That's what Scientology is for. It's there to control your reactive mind. Because you're not really reacting to what's here. You're reacting to recordings. And I know that doesn't make sense because it doesn't make sense, but here is a quote that might explain it. Not guaranteeing. Quote, an individual's mind is not his brain. It's not a matter, space, energy, or time thing. It's an energy that the Thetan is carrying with him. In Scientology, processing and Dianetics processing or auditing, counseling handles those things. And right there is the sales pitch. She didn't tell me, I'm not saying she told me to buy something, but I'm just saying like that is the Scientology sales pitch right there. I'm not making this up. I'm not twisting anyone's words. This is exactly what she said. And you can find this on their site. They will say this. If you go to a church, they will say this. So that right there is a large chunk of Scientology.
That's so much.
Mm-hmm.
How are you able to even, like, digest most of this?
Because it's all I've been consuming for the past, like, 3 months.
No, but I have been consuming this as a byproduct of being friends with you, and I'm still like, what the hell?
No, it's a lot. Like, it's like, again, like, this one guy is claiming to know all of this. He risked his life to get all of this information. Like, but people genuinely believe that they are going to clear the planet. They are going to help the planet. They're going to help humanity reach spiritual
That
freedom from these thetans. Like, that is the
you
thought
know,
process.
had that ideology?
What?
Hitler.
Well,
Am I wrong?
and you know what's, and it's not really funny, but they think that Scientologists are taught that people who are against Scientology, suppressive people, are the equivalent of Hitler. So, yeah. She also said that Scientology wants you to experience life. Because she was kind of like trying to compare it to other religions. And she was talking about Buddhism and how Buddhism is very much um, what's the saying Juan says in Infinity War, like attachment to the materialist, detachment from the spiritual, or something like that.
Yeah.
So my TG was saying that's not exactly what we want, which makes sense, and I'll say why that makes sense. But Scientologists don't want people to separate from the material because they definitely want you to experience life, because Hubbard definitely experienced life. And I mean, Sophia, I think you can guess why they would say this, because Scientologists don't want you to separate from the material. Scientology, David Miscavige does not want you to separate from the material, because if you separate from the material and you experience that type of spiritual enlightenment, that's not good, because then you're not paying them. Because what is money? It's a material, like, good.
In short, he wants you to stay a material girl.
Oh god. That was unfortunate.
This whole thing's unfortunate. Keep going.
But I mean, they can say all they want. It's because they want you to experience life. It might be part of it, but let's be honest, it's because they still want you to have your attachment to money to give to them. I just saw today that to reach the Bridge of Total Freedom, got this from Leah Remini's series, and they broke it down. It costs, like, I mean, on average, $500,000 to get to OT8. $500,000. That's not including other fees, having to retake courses, having to pay memberships. That's just like basic getting through the training. So, yeah, no shit, they want you to not separate from the material.
And yeah.
So, oh, sorry.
You're good. Hold up, I'm yawning. Which also, I also still love how they still claim that they don't have a belief system, but in order to qualify as a religion, to be taxed, you have to have a belief system. So
and this sounds like a belief system, right? Like everything that I've said so far.
It is. It literally is.
Okay. So now I kind of switched it up, and I threw her another question. I asked her, is it true that Scientology is against modern, psychiatry, therapy, modern medicine? And she said, yeah, and she said, to be more specific, we're against any kind of drugs that, quote, lower awareness, because that goes against obtaining spiritual freedom. And this is what she had to say about it, about psychiatry. Quote, it's an industry. Since the ending of World War II it has begun to monopolize the mental field in America and Europe. It's frankly making people worse. It's not untrue that individuals may have benefited from medication, but overall it is still depressing their awareness, and that there are methods that can raise their awareness and help them.
Hold up, I just thought of the most hilarious thing. Keep talking, I'm gonna make something.
Okay. And to go off of this, and this is where I started, because I did record this, which is legal. It's legal where I am to do this. I did record it. I'm not posting that recording anywhere. But what she said basically is that if you just tell someone they have manic depression or like something like that, if you tell them they have anxiety, whatever, you are lowering their awareness. You're not allowing them to become aware of themselves, and basically you're giving them excuses to not do things, which is bad. We shouldn't do that. So that's why Scientology doesn't like psychiatry. And then I kind of was trying to ask her, like, oh, so did L. Ron Hubbard ever, even though I already know the answer to this, did L. Ron Hubbard ever go to like, these associations and tell them his findings and his studies? And she kind of like went a little silent, and she was like, yeah. And I kind of had to finish the sentence for her. I was like, okay, so you didn't they didn't accept it. And she's like, yeah, because it wouldn't have made them any money. Which I think is very high and mighty of Scientology to say that an industry is like exploiting and profiting off of people's, mental disorders. But that was kind of the bit about psychiatry that I asked about. Did you find that thing that you were talking about, or?
I am making it right now. Hold up.
Okay.
I'm almost done.
And this is another thing that I asked them about, and I said, a thing that
Where
usually
would
gets
you like me to send it?
What? Oh, just send it in general.
Okay.
But I asked her about suppressive people and disconnection. And she had told me that she had disconnected from her brother because her brother was a drug addict and all this stuff. And I knew this was going to be the answer that I got from them. I knew this was going to be the answer because it's everything in Scientology's PR when discussing disconnection and suppressive people, suppressive persons, SPs.
Mm-hmm.
She said Scientologists have the right to disconnect from SPs.
Right.
Which is not true. It's not true. There are countless stories of people being forced, coerced into being declared, into disconnecting from their family, being manipulated, and to say it is a right is it's a gross generalization of what actually goes on. So, but that's what they say, and that is maybe what she believes, that Scientologists have the right. And they may say that, but it's not true. It's not true. So let me see this. Oh my God. I cannot show that on.
Oh, but it's so funny.
Well, let me describe it. Actually, Sophia, you can describe it. Don't say spell it out. Do not say the last part. I will get.
It is a picture of David Miscarriage. And with the
David
caption,
Miscavige, by the way, because it kind of cut off.
Oh, my bad. It is David Miscarriage, and
it's one of his portraits, and there's the caption, and it says, "He has the kind of sadness in his eyes that you only see in Eastern European gay PORN." Thank you. I'm here all week.
Good job. Good
Thank
job on
you,
that.
Thank you. I think I'm very funny.
So we're reaching the end of this visit. And this is where I'm going to bring up why I said the receptionist introduced the TG by her first name. I'm going to get into why I think that's important. So, after she told me about SPs and disconnection and how it is a quote, right, I asked her, "Oh, I noticed this giant chart because I wanted her to break down the bridge to total freedom for me." So we go back to the office where she showed me the Super Bowl ad and we start breaking it down. Now, I think that could be a whole video in itself, so I'm not going to get into it, but she was telling me about the purification rundown. And another thing, she mentioned something I didn't ask her that I know is true of these things, but she had to say it to deny it, even though I never even mentioned this. But the purification rundown is like the first thing you do in Scientology, and I'm pretty sure it costs like $4,000 or something. And it's basically to purify you, get rid of all the drugs, street drugs, like actual medication prescriptions. And she describes it as you take sessions in a sauna. We give you a lot of vitamins. It's very physical. And she said, well, you're not sitting in a sauna for 5 hours. And what I found funny was about that was because when she told me the sauna, the first thing that came to my mind was the Scientology Sucks series on YouTube. I completely forgot those guys' names, but they have a great series where they kind of like infiltrate Scientology. And they do though.
Oh,
they sit in
yeah.
a sauna for 4 hours. And I didn't even say that, but she just had to say, well, they don't sit in there for 5 hours. And I was like, oh, that's good. It's like, I never even asked. Like, I never accused that, but she had to say it. So that was one of the things. And she goes through it. And as she goes through it, she finally says, she was talking about, like, one of the things we do in auditing in some of these levels is that we talk about, how to deal with major changes in your life. And she says, I have tremendous guilt for the major changes that I've imposed on my daughter, the girl you met in the front. She was like, that's my daughter. Sorry,
No way.
About that. Some Amazon delivery driver backed into the gate, so
You're good.
yeah. Shoot, why I said at the beginning of this, why I thought it was
You were
important the
talking about
receptionist
how she was
called the TG
the
by her
receptionist was her
first
daughter.
name. Oh, okay.
It's
Yeah, I was
because
talking
it
about
gets
how
into the point,
which I did not ask.
I did not get into
Scientologists
with
do
this
not
person.
believe. I'm gonna have to like make a weird
That
cut
children
here, but
are not seen as children.
children
They
are
seen
as like as capable as
spiritual,
you or I
immortal beings
are,
that
which
have
is
the
just
same capabilities
that's
that
not true. A baby cannot do
And
the same things that I can
again,
do.
This is just my speculation. I'm
And
not
what
the
I
best
found
at
odd
reading
about it
body
is that
language. I'm not the
I
best at reading people.
could not
but
tell.
here
If she had
was.
never mentioned that, I would have never known. Usually when I'm introducing my parents to someone, which doesn't happen often, and I get it, they're in like a professional, I guess, environment. But she introduced me to the TG by first name. And after learning that they were related, like a mother and daughter, I was like, I was just thinking in my mind, like, why wouldn't you say, this is my mom?
Mm-hmm.
And say her name, or this is my mom. And then she can say, yeah, and this is my name. Why would you just introduce your mom by their first name. Like that just doesn't that's weird to me. And again, I could be reading too much into it, but I feel like that's a little representative of how Scientology actually treats familial relationships. It's if children aren't supposed to want or need things because the whole point is you're clearing the planet. If you're not doing things that aren't towards clearing the planet, then you're on the wrong path. It doesn't matter if you want your mom, it doesn't matter if you want your dad, if you miss them. That has nothing to do with clearing the planet, so get over it. So personally, I think that introduction is a product of that. But again, could be me reading too much into it, but that's just how I felt about the situation.
I mean, but also she was with that belief that freaking 8-year-olds have as much capability as a 20-year-old or whatever. And also the fact that she grew up in the church. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And going back to when I asked the receptionist, why she stayed in, and she was saying it's like she seemed a little like shy, almost like a little timid about it, and she didn't really give me anything else other than the technology saved my life. Like that was it. Like there was nothing in the present that she could tell me like this is why she stayed. So that was like very obvious to me, like, okay, so this is just like all you know. This is all you know, which is reflective of what I've seen so far regarding people who have grown up in this church. But to get to the final part, because this episode is probably going to be like an hour and a half long, which is fine. Our last episode was kind of short, so this will be nice to make up for that. Again, a lot of the questions that I asked, I already knew the answers to. So it's not that I was really trying to learn any new information. I wanted to learn how Scientologists truly package this information and what they will do, how they will lie about it, how they will manipulate certain things. And I don't even want to say that this person was necessarily lying because I believe that they believe this is what's going on. But I know for a fact that a lot of the stuff they were saying is it's not true. So on the top of Total Bridge to Freedom, there are, I think, there are only 2 more OT levels above OT8. The furthest you can go in Scientology right now is OT8. Above that, though, on the bridge, it has OT9 and OT10. And when you go to the right side of the chart, it says it not yet released. I think that's what it says. So I asked her and I said, hey, so what does that mean, not yet released? Is it not written yet? Is it, even though I know the answer to it is not written. It is not written. Nothing they can say will make me think that is written. It's not written down. It's not there. People are staying in Scientology who are OT8s. They are staying for a carrot on a stick that does not exist. So, but she had this very, very long explanation as to why OT levels 9 and 10 have not been released yet. She says, quote, "This is a Scientology principle." I should probably not quote yet. She hasn't said this, but a Scientology principle that Scientologists learn later on in their counseling, auditing levels, whatever. Now, quote, "Reality is agreement. If the state of the world is what it is, and if reality is agreement, and if so many Thetans across the world agree that this is the way it is, then that is the way it's going to be." Unquote. Now, let me unpack that, because that probably makes no sense.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Okay. So she also went on to describe what is called a dwindling spiral. And what this means in Scientology, at least, is that this goes back to things are way worse now than they were in 80. It's kind of portraying this doom and gloom part of it. She was talking about, the warmongers in Russia and Ukraine. Like she was like, what's going on with that? Like that's just, ugh. It's the media. It's the media that's causing this dwindling spiral. It's the warmongers. It's all of this stuff. Especially the media. And they are suppressive people. And so basically, why these upper OT levels are not being released is because the world is in this dwindling spiral. And there are too many suppressive people. And basically that they won't accept these upper OT level documents. And here's the kicker. These higher levels are written down, but they just aren't being released.
So you're telling me that L. Ron Hubbard isn't out there searching for them.
They are written down.
They're just there.
That is what they believe. They are written down. They're just not being released because there's too many people like us in the world.
Man.
And the planet needs to get cleared or more cleared in order to. Yeah. So that was my visit to Scientology. Again, I was not pressured to give them my contact information. In fact, I even offered to give them an email and they were like, no, it's cool. Like, you're a student. Like, we don't need that. Which also could have meant, oh, so you have no money. So we don't want you to, we don't want your information because we can't get you to buy anything. It could have also been that. But they really weren't pushy about me giving them contact information. They really weren't trying to, like, shove this information down my throat as if it was, like, to me at least, it didn't feel like they were trying to do that. I definitely had more intense experiences with someone who's, like, I don't know, Christian or somebody like that trying to shove their beliefs down my throat. And honestly, like, this really wasn't that bad. I was asking questions and they were giving me the answers. So I really can't say that they were shoving things down my throat. I don't like that I said that like 5 times. And to be honest, they were pretty nice. They weren't hostile. They weren't manipulative to me. And honestly, I came away from the experience probably having more sympathy for these people because honestly, these people just seemed like nice people who really do want to help the planet. Whether or not, I mean, obviously I don't agree with those beliefs. I'm not going to subscribe to it. They do. And that's unfortunate. And I'm sure at some point, if you spend all that time and money towards this, I guess, like, yeah, stay. Because that's all you know. So, yeah, this is definitely a longer episode, but I think
But hey,
hopefully,
we got the bulk of it out.
yeah, hopefully it gives us it gives you guys a better understanding. We're definitely going to get into the truth next Friday. I think this episode hopefully does a good job of kind of giving a little, like, insight to how Scientology markets, how they draw people in. I think our, like, finale episode is going to do a much better job of that because we'll be going to, like, the ideal org, not some, like, little church. So I'll be taking the personality test. Who knows? We might get audited. I don't know what's going to happen then, but that's like a few months from now.
Oh yeah,
But yeah, I don't. Sophia, if you want to add anything, again, like, I'm sorry. I totally, like, just steamrolled through this.
I was just listening. I think we are in for a very interesting series.
Yes.
And yeah, I really have nothing. I just think it's kind of ridiculous. Oh, I do have one thing to say. I did order Dianetics.
What?
I ordered a copy.
Oh my.
It was like $7
Okay.
secondhand. I might as well annotate it.
Yeah, you know what? I think that'll be good because I've been like spearheading these conversations, so I think it'll be good if you have the
Yeah,
copy and you
let
can
me
read
do
it
some
and we
work
can talk
too.
about it.
Yeah. And my
Yeah.
paycheck was yesterday, so so I have the extra cash to spend.
You didn't spend it on like it was just like a thrift like eBay type site, right?
Yeah, it was from Thrift Books. I got it
Okay.
secondhand. Of course, I
Okay.
wouldn't order from the website.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Like I don't know.
No, I got it from Thrift Books for like $5.
Yeah, so we'll plan on going through Dianetics. I have all the like the OT documents. What's it called? Yeah, all the OT level documents, and we can definitely go through that.
Mm-hmm.
We're not also want to make it clear, we're not a Scientology channel. It's just that like this has been our conversations
This is
for the past 3
Evangeline's
months.
hyperfixation, and if you make fun of it, then you hate neurodivergent people, okay?
We're definitely like after next episode, we're gonna take a break, obviously until December because we can't. I'm like I'm in New Mexico right now, so I don't. Yeah.
Oh my god, Breaking Bad land?
Break.
I've also been watching Breaking Bad recently, so
Yeah. So just like so we wrap this up because I don't think people really I don't know, maybe people really like into this. Also, okay, this isn't like a lot of views. But for us, it's a lot of views. Wait, no. Why did it just trying to see what's our views on this. Okay, we have almost like 50 views on last week's episode, which is
good.
quite a lot for us because usually we average around like 10, I'd say. The highest views we've ever gotten is 200, and that has never happened since. So
But we hit the algorithm with that one.
we did hit the algorithm. So my hope is that it's not even this is like when I say this, when I want this series to hit the algorithm, it's not because like I want us to get YouTube famous. While like that's a cool like perk, I guess. And also it's also not to say that, our podcast, this series is really exposing Scientology because it's not really exposing Scientology. I think it's just maybe the people who would usually view this channel wouldn't otherwise hear about this kind of stuff. And I think it's important for people to know what's going on with this because, again, they're tax exempt. They have taken out government loans to upkeep their religion, and they're getting away with horrible things. So, just like, that's why I want to get the word out. And I don't know, maybe is the goal of this to be declared suppressive people?
I don't know.
Because I'd love
don't
to get
think that's
officially
it yet.
declared.
I don't think we're that big yet, but
We're not that big, but maybe that's the goal. Maybe ideal org at the end of the year we're gonna get. I have a feeling I'm gonna like mess up and ask something, and it'll immediately be like, "You need to leave." So, just some final housekeeping stuff. I promoted it last week, but Britcord has a podcast. It's monthly. Our next episode is the 29th. It'll probably be released like around Halloween though. So you have that. Britcord, largest Britney Spears Discord server. We have a lot of fun. Obviously, like if you're not a Britney Spears fan, then this wouldn't apply to you. But if you are, and probably if you're listening to this, you are from Britcord because that's the only place I ever advertise this. And speaking of advertisement, we're still looking for a social media manager. So please, 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 please comment. I might make a Google form, but please let us know if you would like to do that because I think it would really help out and get the word out about this podcast and what we're talking about and all that fun stuff. And then, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
All right.
that's it. And we'll have other socials in the
Yep.
description.
Thank you so much for listening. And this has been the Cornflake Gang Podcast.
See ya.
Bye bye.